Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are ready to have some fun with our coach, our friend. Yeah, Randy Swaim. Again, coaching here for Relevance. He's joining us live on the podcast and Zoomcast once again. Again, Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach, founder of his own coaching company. And again, he's based out of Dallas, Fort Worth. Works with a lot of pilots, but
Yes,
not only
indeed.
pilots. He's got a great company that works with so many executives and companies around the world. He's a public speaker. He's an author. He's everything. Please say hello to our guests today who are listening. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everybody. Randy Swaim here. Honored to be here and honored to work with Jill again. So, yeah, that's great to be here. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you so much. I mean, you've been a coach for quite some time. No need to get into the full background. We've talked before, but for new listeners today, we just got to give a quick overview, a little bit about yourself, how we can reach you, and then we'll go for today's topic. I'm sure we got some good stuff going.
You bet. Well, I'll tell you what, it's today's topic is actually aligned with anybody in today's environment. So that'll be good. But yeah, Randy Swaim, like you said, Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach, coaching for relevance is my company. My background in about 37 seconds has been in aviation. I know what it's like to live your dream because when I graduated from college, I wanted to fly the F4 Phantom and the Learjet. So I've gotten a chance to do both of those. So a lot of it's been military aviation. And for the last basically about 24 years now, I've been training and mentoring pilots and certifying jet pilots and stuff. So it's been a lot of what I've learned, and you'll see this in the documentary when it gets posted, which sounds like it's probably going to be published around summer. And I've also got an autobiography that's probably going to be published around June. And so all of that will bring into count about how my journey has really brought out a leadership aspect of it, which is a lot of misunderstood in today's society, in today's world. So yeah, that's my passion, and my real vision is to bring freedom to potential and all those across my path. And when you put it in pilot language, it's helping people to overcome the gravitational forces that are holding them back. So,
I love it.
That's what I do.
Thank you so much for being here. And if we want to reach out to you directly, just share your contact information again.
Yeah, you can actually go to my website, coachingforrelevance.com. It's an FOR, relevance.com. And at the bottom of the homepage, it has my cell phone number and my email. The email is randy@coachingforrelevance.com. And in fact, I'll encourage anybody that's interested, not a sales thing at all. As you know, I don't do cold calls, so I don't do sales calls or anything like that. If somebody has a need, yeah, we'll set something up. But I try to build relationships and stuff.
Beautiful.
But on my website, they're actually modifying my website and kind of recreating it where it's kind of focused on the executive coaching, also rising stars for youth, and also public speaking kind of thing. So anybody that would like to check out my website, it's a lot. There's a lot of aspects about it that look different, and but it's very positive and all that. So nothing to reach out and follow you up and say, okay, I saw you connected kind of thing. It's none of that going on. So, but yeah, it's randy@coachingforrelevance.com, and it also has my cell phone number on there, so you can give me a call. Like I said, you won't get sales calls from me because my goal is to build relationships. And if somebody has a need, yeah, we'll come up with the thing to address their need. So.
Well, thank you so much. All right. So we are here again. And let's start. What did you want to dive in today? Did you have a question?
No, actually what I do is I share a very close, a very recent analogous story, which highlights some of what we've been talking about how we have spent on all of our meetings. We've talked about truly leading people. And, organizational maneuverability is a concept that is trademarked for me out of Washington. And it's the idea of taking pilot lessons and applying them to leading teams in an unpredictable, changing environment. And this is a good picture of sort of the need of that. So I'll share the story, and I'll kind of point out some of kind of what I shared with the guy, and then it may generate some thoughts or questions from you, and we can continue and expand on it as we need to. So that's, but it's a good insight, and it's a good analogous picture of true leadership. And what it was, I'll just go ahead and share the story with you very quickly, and you'll see this is sort of aligned with some of the things we've talked about before that were different, different concepts and everything. But very recently, and by very recently, I mean very recently kind of thing, I was actually working with a pilot, and I won't tell you any names or any, organizational names or anything like that, but I'm on their certificate as an examiner to conduct check rides for their pilots and things of that nature. And I was giving a check ride to two of them, and one of them told me even before the day of the exam of the evaluation and stuff, told me that he had actually requested me because he had experienced the difference in how I bring things. It's actually a little bit more challenging because it makes people process and think. And in the neuroscience aspect, I think, Jill, you've actually heard me say this too, that it's not about just going back to comfort zones, but do you really get your people processing in their brain and seeing those real results for that situation? And he had experienced that before, so he requested that I be the one that worked with him this day. And in the process of doing that, what was interesting is that he said that for his particular organization, he was on the journey of becoming a fellow company check evaluator, kind of thing for them, just so that when they came to our organization, if there was some, manpower thing or scheduling thing that was challenging, he could maybe come do it, kind of thing. But he could also work with his people on a day-to-day basis, kind of thing. And so in the process of that, when I was asking them some questions, you could tell that the knowledge was there. But, and for the listeners that are listening, you've probably seen people do this, react to you or other people as well, because I would ask questions and you could see that their brain, they could get to the answers, but their brain would be going all over the place to think, okay, well, let's see, in this context, how would that be? What in this context, kind of what is that, that kind of thing. And when the brain goes crazy like that, it brings your brain off of the actual concept that you're addressing sometimes. And it's very interesting. Like I said, you could see the evidence that the basic satisfactory level was there, but all of that aspect of over processing was distracting and getting in the way. And it was interesting because they did very well, kind of thing. Didn't have to, fail them or anything like that on the evaluation and stuff. But as we were debriefing, one of the things that I kind of shared with them, I kind of emphasized this aspect about your processing. And one of the things that I shared with him is I said, now you're on a roll because you're going to become kind of a local evaluator for the company back home.
Yeah.
And I said, there's some aspects about this that you're going to have to get very comfortable with. And one of the things was I was talking about this aspect of looking at the real operational aspect of the factoids instead of just going with rote academic factoids, getting a real census of what the operational perspective is on that so that it can guide my decision making in various situations to be successful. And he was very appreciative of that. And then one of the things that I also told him, and I will share this, that just very quickly, he said that his company is wanting to, his flight operations, the chief pilot and the leaders are wanting to sort of go in the direction that I was talking about. And I said, I know that because I know the leaders very well and stuff. And he said, but you know what? We've got some new. We got a online, training process kind of thing, where we go each year to get the sort of what would be the ground school training part of it. And yet, like is so often in computerized things like that, it just goes over road aspects. There's not the real operational perspective of it all. And he was saying that his chief pilot was wanting to talk with the FAA people that are over their department and everything. And they said they didn't really want to change what they're doing. And one of the things that I shared with them, and it was a leadership perspective, I said, you don't have to change how that's doing. But particularly, I said, with the role that you are moving toward, you have to get a sense for how you're going to lead it and model it in such a way that when people get the factoids, they then put it into an operational perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, at what point would this decision be right? At what point might this decision be right? That kind of thing. And I said, one of the things that in one of my debriefing comments to him, just as we were just, sharing kind of thing, I said, with you moving into this role as a leader, and, I told him, I said, yes, I'm bringing some of my executive coach awareness to it also. But I said, one of the things you're going to have to kind of be thinking about is how you're going to model that for your people. Because here's the deal. If your people experience the true benefit of it, just because of their experiencing of the difference, you know what? They'll go there without you having to point fingers. And like I say, the management in today's world tends to just write out the laws and rules and say, you got to do this, you got to do this. Leadership doesn't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
Leadership connects with people in such a way that they want to be a part of what you're doing. And it was kind of interesting because he totally appreciated that. And in fact, one of the things that he said is here in about a month or two, as he kind of goes down this journey, he wants to get on a Zoom call. Because I told him, I said, if you want to just have a Zoom chat sometime, or maybe one every now and then or something, if you want to, we can do that. And I said, I got my own Zoom room. And he said, you know what, as I start down this road, he said, yeah, we'll do that just every now and then and just have a chat. And I said, well, sounds good. But it was interesting because I said, if you move into this role, which they're obviously wanting to kind of move him in that direction, I said, it's not just about telling people stuff. It's not just about this. But one of the real responsibilities of a leader is to model the value, model the realism, not be arrogant because I know this and you don't. No, that's not it. But to be able to model that operational perspective in neuroscience, to model the value of when your brain is actually processing the application of the information and how it works best for the team, the two pilots that are working together as a crew, things like that. And when you're talking about your leadership team, people that are leading their team at work, that's very applicable as well. Because you know what, it's to what extent are you just doing rote factoids? To what extent are you getting in the way because you're not leading that operational perspective? And one of the things that I shared with him was, I said, you don't have to change the overall direction that is approved for your operation. So you don't have to go to the FAA and approve that. Now, if you wanted to change all the questions and change how you did it, yeah, they'd have to approve that. But what I said is, what we're talking about is you leading and creating a culture within your flight department that takes the knowledge that you have and applies it to everyday flight dynamics.
True.
And to that decision making. And when you're talking about people that may be listening to this today, and you're talking about leading your team, to what extent are you just kind of sitting back here saying you're supposed to do this? Or to what extent are you truly modeling something for them where you can ask the right questions and they go, oh, wow, yeah, you know what? Yeah. Kind of thing. And they catch those insights and they get to the point where they grow to where they catch those insights on their own, so that, you know what, when the situation is not exactly the same, they can make the right decision. And what's interesting is, and you see this sometimes in pilots and stuff, but you also see this around our industries and stuff. So often people are so spring loaded to just a rote academic thing that, and when the situation does not fit a rote expected application, academic, model or a situation, they tend to blame it on something else. It should have been like this. Guess what? It wasn't. And can your team truly make decisions that reach radical results in a challenging environment like that. But it was interesting. I just shared the story because it's a good analogous picture of what we're talking about with this. When you're talking about truly generating the percepting, the processing in your frontal lobe, so that you're really assessing the true nature of this situation, and you get a sense for when this is exactly the right decision or when this is, and why, and can you make it successful, and to do that at the point of attack, because sometimes there's not a lot of time allowed in a given situation. So guess what? A lot of that happens before you ever get there. A lot of that processing happens before you get there. So, part of it is when you're talking about modeling your team for that, it's modeling that those conversations that are maybe 6 months prior to needing that one little piece, kind of thing. And are you really building that in because of the conversations that you're facilitating within your team to get them in that processing mode,
to get moving, to be more productive.
That's right. And proactive. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And that's key when you're talking about leading teams. Proactivity is everything. It's not, if you just wait until something happens, guess what? You may not have a choice, kind of thing. But because a lot of times, whether it's in flying and piloting or leading your team in a business environment, a lot of times it's, if you wait until 10 seconds before you have to act, guess what? There's not enough time. But you know what? If they've gotten a sense in their mind because their processing has taken place, well before that, and they get a sense of at what point does it cross a line where this might have to be done? And how would I know that decision is right? Kind of thing. When they have some of those kind of conversations along, and a lot of those are just conversations that you're having with your team over coffee, at Starbucks or something, kind of thing. A lot of those don't happen just at the point of attack or whatever. It's a lot of those kind of conversations sort of happening. And you know what? When you're leading and modeling it well, you'll know how great you're doing when you notice that your team is having some of those conversations with themselves, even when you're not there. You've modeled it, and you've modeled the value of it. And so all of those are sort of aspects with this, but I found it interesting that this guy, like I said, he when he first got there, he requested that he wanted to work with me while he was there, kind of thing, for his, training and all that and everything. And I definitely know why. And he, but it is sort of interesting, just some of the chats that we had afterwards. I said, as you go down this road, you're not going to be just a pilot. You're going to be bigger than that. You're going to be more than that. And you're going to be a leader in your team. And, there's some things that you got to think about. And what was really cool, like I said, is as he goes down this road, he actually asked me, he said that, because I offered him, I said, you know what, if you want to just get on a, not from me and my company so much, but just as two pilots, as two colleagues, kind of thing. If you want to get on a couple of Zoom calls every now and then, let me know.
Mine as well.
Yeah. And he was very appreciative of that. In fact, he said, I definitely want to do that, because he's experiencing the difference, with that. And it's, but when you're leading your team, that's a critical part of what you want. It's not just about telling them what to do. It's not just about going to rote academic facts and then blaming it on everything else in the universe if it doesn't do just that. It's, are they ready in a very challenging situation that may even be, life-threatening sometimes? Can they make that decision on the spot? And very often it's leading that coaching facilitative style and leading it so that their neuroscience processing takes it back. And even before they get there, they have a little bit of a picture of when this would be right or this would be right. And you know what? Sometimes there might be one thing in the scenario that develops that might be a little bit different. But here's the thing, if they've given some of that processing together ahead of time, then they'll be able to process quickly and make the right decision based on whatever little segments have changed. And that's what you want in your team, particularly in a rapidly changing, unpredictable environment. And it's something that has to be done very often, even when you're not there. And so that's one thing that I shared with him. I said, this is the leadership aspect and the facilitative team development and cultural creation aspect that you're going to want to be working on as you go forward. And it's something that that when you're leading a team in any area, it's something you got to be thinking about for sure.
Yeah. Well, remind everyone who we contact you. We're way over halfway. We usually stop to talk.
Yeah.
Tell us more about how we can reach you.
Oh, okay. We can, if you need to take a commercial, we can too. But I know it's getting close to the end, but yeah, it's coaching for relevance is the website. I applaud anybody that would like to go there and just check it out. It has a little bit more of my background story on there, but it, like I said, it does highlight the 3 big areas that we're going into with the speaking, the public speaking, the coaching, and the rising stars. And at the bottom of it, like I say, it's Randy at coachingforrelevance.com, and the 4 is the number 4. And it also has my cell phone down there. If somebody does call me on the cell phone, leave a number or leave a voicemail, because if I don't recognize the number, I don't usually ask it. I answer it. I let it go to voicemail just to kind of find out who it is, kind of thing.
Weed them out. I know. I don't like, that's like private phone. I hate private phone calls.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those, it's like potluck picking one up. And then usually it's like, you wasted time because it's telemarketer. I mean, maybe it's probably a client, but to me, I'm like, it's a telemarketer.
And you'd be surprised at how many spam calls I get. But yeah, so if somebody does, they can just kind of leave a message. And if it's somebody that kind of saw me here or something, I'll be glad to set up a time to call them back, and stuff, and chat and everything. And like I said, I'm not somebody that gives you a lot of cold sales pitches. That's not what I'm about. I'm about building relationships, and when there's people out there that can gain value out of what you bring, then yeah, we'll work something out. But I'm not going to push you to that necessarily. I mean, unless there's an obvious real need there, kind of thing. But yeah, that's what it is. It's all about helping people to be successful. Everybody that comes across my journey, to help them overcome the stuff that's holding them back, and find out what it's like a pilot when you climb to altitude for the first time. And I know the very first time I was at 51,000 feet, where you look out and you can actually see, you're not in space yet. You don't see stars, but the sky is much more navy blue than it is down here, where it's baby blue. And you can look out, and at 51,000 feet, it's the first point when you look at the horizon and you can actually see a curvature in the horizon and stuff. And the first time that I saw that, it was like, wow, well, you know what? In the listener's vision, in what they're wanting to accomplish, what would it like to see that in your journey with however that reflects you in what they want to do. And I'll tell you what, having lived my dream, well, I know what it feels like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us. God, wait, we still have 4 minutes left. I'm not getting rid of you yet. Okay, hold on.
Okay, sounds good.
I just looked at the clock. I thought we were we were summing up, and then I look. I'm like, it's 3:26.
I promise not to go anywhere yet.
Okay, go ahead. What else did you want to add? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that is the critical point that a lot of people don't realize. And it in the old school thinking of 50 years ago. It was more about sort of pointing fingers and telling people what to do in the midst of this and that and all this. With the environment that we're in today's world, where it's much more unpredictable, rapidly changing. It's not just academic. It's not just the same every time you go into something. But do you have a sense? I'll just share one other kind of quick picture on this too, that I was actually flying the sim a few days ago. And there's one fellow instructor that had been trained to just, even with an engine failure, I just hit autopilot and just, kind of because of his background. Well, when I was flying the sim, the guy that was acting as a co-pilot leaned up like this, and he said, it was right after the simulated engine failure. And he said, "You want the autopilot?" And I said, "Nope." Not yet. He said, okay. And he put his hand down, and I flew the airplane. And as it started to as I started to level it off at the altitude we're going to be at, and it was nice and stable, then I reached up and hit the autopilot on. But you know what? It's not just going with the rote academic things that so many people try to want to focus on. You got to get an idea as to what's the talent of your screen, what's the awareness. Because a lot of people, if you just click into, academic scenarios and that's all, their thinking drops off. And they may not even be aware of when there's a very unique, symptom coming in or a factor coming in. And, I shared with neuroscience that the comfort zone is right back here in your cerebellum in your brain. And if that's where you're going, and if that's what you're letting your team go to, you're not getting it done. And really, if you think about it, if you're asking real simplistic academic factoid questions, you're helping them just put it in their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. What you want to do is ask the real operational questions that really get them to think and process and get a sense of when this or that is right, kind of thing. And on what basis would I say that? And when you're talking about a challenging environment, those are some very key aspects that people kind of have to think about.
Got it. All right. Well, now it's time to go. So let's say goodbye to our friend, Randy Swaim, our coach here, bringing freedom to potential. Again, coachingforrelevance.com is the website. And again, if they want to reach out to you, leave that voicemail. What's the number?
The number is actually on my website. It's 817-880-4749.
Perfect. All right. Sounds good.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again. And yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you again. And to all of our listeners, please stay tuned. Stay with us for the rest of the shows today. In the meantime, good having you back here in Studio One with us. We enjoy your presence, Randy. Have a great day.
Well, it's good to be here.
Thank you, as always.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.